Hello, we are Nerds of the West, and we are giving you our review of Spellbook. We have just played 2 games of this. We played a little bit before as well. We do have to say before we dive in that this game was supplied to us by the distributor, so thank you very much to them. This is a game by Phil Walker-Harding. Lachlan, can you give us an overview of what this game is and what people need to know to understand what we're talking about?
So we are a bunch of wizards trying to learn 7 spells. The game ends when someone learns 7 spells or fills up their familiar spot, and whoever has the most points wins. The spells are worth points, and the familiar board is also worth points.
Spells are going to give you different abilities. You get to take a maximum of 3 actions a turn, unless the spell says otherwise. And you're drawing up both coloured runes, or coloured material, and the runes on them will let you activate different things. There's also 3 sets of cards, and we do have to say that while we have played this, we haven't played all sets of cards, and we haven't played the version of the game where you mix and match the different sets. We like to review things here based not on 1 to 10, because it's hard to say objectively one game is better than another, just if given the opportunity, what we personally would prefer to play, and we rank that on our Nerds of the West ranking board. You can see that at nerdsofthewest.com.au, or we will rank it at the end and show you this. Guys, gameplay. This game has very different options for gameplay. What did you think of the 2 different sets we played?
Oh, I enjoyed the first one a lot more, I gotta say.
I will say I much enjoyed the first one.
I preferred the second one.
I liked the challenge of the second one, figuring out the right order to cast the spells. In the first one, I felt there was a very clear, do the morning stuff, do the night stuff, do the day stuff. This one was cool, you can get some different stuff going depending on the order that you go, which I think is relevant by the, shown by the fact that we all casted all the spells that game. Just about.
I didn't.
Just about.
Oh, you didn't.
I was like, you didn't.
Just about.
Lies and slander.
The first set of cards, right? It was, I believe that's more sort of the beginner.
It's a really good introduction.
The first introductory set of cards. All of them had fairly basic actions that you could do, and it was more enjoyable for me because that way, your options, although they seem less complicated, give you more cognition to decide what I'm going to do, how am I going to counterplay that strategy over that side of the table. So you're thinking more about your avenue to victory, and you're not overwhelmed. This one was certainly much more enjoyable, but it was a little bit more complicated. Different things to consider, such as, for example, Lockie got Eruption straight away, and it seemed vastly overpowered in that very first time where he drew up
the one time I used
6.
it.
Yeah, and then on other turns you had to pre-plan because you weren't able to get that extraordinary power
I wasn't able to use Eruption, right?
Yeah, and there was a bit more interaction because Tom was forcing players to take material.
I was giving you material, but there's a maximum material limit of 9, and it is a total maximum. You don't get to go up and discard after. It is, if you have 9, you cannot get more, which is huge.
Yeah. So that made for a more complex game, and it did have favourable parts as to how that works, but some of them were unfavourable. I think poor Reese and I were on the receiving end of some of that bad luck.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. Is this is as much as you can pre-plan and think about your path to victory. There's a serious amount of luck here.
It's still a luck game.
Yeah,
right. You've got to.
It's like a luck mitigation.
Yeah,
there's still a bit of mitigation, but that game was a lot harder to mitigate than the first game.
Yeah,
agreed.
But then the first round had the dilemma of symbols heavy, right? So this game wasn't symbols heavy, whereas the first game was.
Yeah, we're using those symbols to activate spells a lot more.
It to be a little bit slower in that regard, because when you're doing things at lower levels, whereas this one here, we had no means of upgrading, so we played a little bit slower to upgrade to the fullest ability, whereas in the first game, we were like, I'll take the first ability and then I'll upgrade later. But that might change if we go back and play the first round and go straight to the top level, and that would change our opinion of the symbols game.
Yeah.
I love that there's the luck in this, and this is tipping my hat to how I'm going to rank it later on. Games with luck, games with easy to understand rules, because there is just these actions here in front of you, are so accessible. The luck means everyone has a chance to win, but it means everyone has a lot of choices and feels like it's really engaging, because you can't make up your mind on what you're going to do until you see what you pull from the bag. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think for a game like this, because there is a little bit to understand here. The fact that your choices are very like narrowed down to either you do this or you do this. And then as you are becoming more comfortable with the game, that's when the options open up, but it never gets to the point where it's overwhelming.
Chris likened it to you are becoming a stronger wizard. As you become more comfortable with the game, you feel more powerful. There is a lot more for you to do.
Yeah,
Very thematic in that regard.
yeah, like that worked out for me. I went down one avenue as hard as I could instead of spreading thin. Once I got that, then it gave me the ability to get to another one. And then once I had that, it was just whatever I had in front of me is the avenue I was going down, as opposed to some of the other guys where you're like, I really want this one, but the runes weren't coming up for you. Whereas I didn't have that dilemma. I was like, all right, I've got these runes. It's not the best option, but I'll cast it anyway to get rid of the runes to clear my board. Because like you said, once you get to 9, it's very hard to get rid of them unless you're casting spells.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about the 2 different paths to victory and 2 different paths to ending the game? Putting stuff on your familiar or trying to cast spells?
I think it's good. I think it gives you something else to do, right? Like if you found yourself in a place where I'm not really doing much, you still have that option there to be like, well, I can just put something onto my familiar to gain points. And like with that second game, I would have way favored that if I knew I was going to be not drawing the things that I needed with.
Especially
with
those
cure.
green material tokens.
Yeah.
And that it's probably the mechanics so that you can get rid of some of the runes that you don't need. And especially once you unlock a spell, you don't need that color rune anymore. That becomes a symbol, or it becomes something to put onto your familiar.
Yeah.
The other side of it is you're starting to thin out the cards, the tokens that are left for everyone else. Like Lachlan has a bunch of red on his board, and when everyone else then started casting red, I mean, there was less red in the bag for people to get. I needed white at the end of the game, but everyone had a little bit of white on their board, and everyone had already cast white, which means there was half the amount of white tokens left for me to be able to do, which I think really pushes, once again, when you cast which spell, when you've got things available, and what you choose to discard when you are doing a discard and draw action.
Yeah. I think this is a good introduction game. I think this is good, like, as it's one of those games that you can pull out for people that don't play board games that often.
Yeah.
Which we keep encountering.
It's a solid light to mid-weight game, but it also doesn't take too long to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rules are simple. It's reasonably fast. I felt like both games are probably just as fast as each other. The second game, we were just a little bit more efficient in what we wanted to do because we weren't bogged down.
Like, this is one of the few games that says, it's not like per player, whatever, it says this is a 45-minute game. It's one of the few times I can say they nailed that. This is a 45-minute game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also not hard to look at, and I really like the pieces too.
Yeah, let's talk on component quality and art. Like,
The only one knock that I have against the components is I really wish these cards were chipboards. I would much prefer it if these were chipboards because
chipboards,
because these are already like starting to sort of.
I can definitely see an upgrade where you slide the spell into the chipboard so you can put it in.
Or if they had jigsaw
either chipboard or just being letterbond, so it's not this
Yeah.
flat like this sort of thing. Because you still want to. There's still a lot of cards, and if it was all chipboard, it wouldn't fit in the box.
But like that is only like that's a me thing. That's not like a. I'm gonna deduct points from this. Like
The art is gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely.
Every different spell having a different art style and different art focus. Like you've got the mix of animals and nature and darkness and fire. All the different really basic magic themes are all really well represented here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the box is nice. It's basic. It's simple. What it-
It's like,
I think, art-wise is good. I think one thing we didn't touch on for the gameplay aspect, because the tokens are great. These are fantastic. It's interesting that there's only 3 symbols, but there's 7 colors. I think that was an interesting way of doing the maths for the game. But the fact that you've got so many variations, similar to Ticket to Ride, where you've got so many of the red cards or the magma cards, so many of the poison cards, so many of the plant cards, vapor, charcoal, mercury, and gold.
Nailed it.
I was almost there.
all the major
but then,
food groups.
they interchangeable, which I thought is a really good way to mix it up. So there's still lots of play ability, and even though you've got the sets, you can always mix and match entirely as you please. And I'd like to see a game where everyone's got just a completely different
I
board.
don't think the game is balanced on everyone having a completely different
I don't think it would be
but
either.
it would be interesting.
It'd be wicked good fun. And
Pick
I'm already
your
thinking.
spells. It's the end of year tests, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking of combinations where you could mix and match them up.
Wait,
like
draft.
yeah,
Well, I believe that is how it works. Is you draw and then you go, cool, I want this one.
yeah.
That would be the light. That
It's ticking over.
bro, that's flicked the switch in my head.
Quick note before we start ranking it, I love this middle section that there is that guaranteed choice of what you want and that this refills so quickly and disappears so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's below 5, it refills back up to 5, so everyone usually has a decent choice.
Yeah.
If there's nothing there that anyone wants, it disappears.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's effective.
That hurt me so
There was
much.
very few times where I was like, everything's fucked, I want to die. There was one time, right?
Yeah.
But aside from that, there was very few times where it's like, oh, well, I can't. There's always something to do,
Yeah.
right? Even when there's nothing to do, there's always something to do.
Yeah, even though you felt hard done by the luck that last game,
I was still doing stuff.
you didn't come last.
I also was, if Chris didn't end the game, I was going to end the game,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that's where it's like, yeah, as much as I complain about being hard done by, the same as Lachlan being like, I had such bad luck and won the game.
I couldn't have ended the game though. Like
Yeah,
I had
it's-
2 more spells
Yeah.
and familiar spaces.
Everyone was
That's a very good point,
still trucking along at a similar pace.
Yeah.
You know, it was never like Chris was so far ahead to end the game and I'm sitting here being like, I haven't even cast a spell yet. Everyone was like, things were still happening. People were still doing things. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Any final thoughts before we rank it?
Oh, no.
Let's dive in. This is our Nerds Advice ranking list. We put every single game that we've played this year and last year because we had a bit of a break. And once again, we rank this based on what we would prefer to play if given the opportunity. This way we can rank different games against each other. As I've stated, this is a fairly lightweight game. I would call this light to midweight. I think it's just above a 2 on the Board Game Geek complexity ranking. This is going pretty high for me.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I could crack this out with anyone and think have a good time. It's not a game I would like to play all the time. Like this is not going to beat Dune Imperium, King Domino. It's not going to be that like I'm going to play this over a lot of other stuff. But in a lot of situations, I can see myself playing this. So I think it is going to go above the Wolves, but below Fight the Blight for me, just on a timing thing. Fight the Blight's that little bit quicker, plays at a little bit higher player count. But this definitely beats the Wolves as that 4 or 5 player midweight game for me.
It's so hard that you
Oh,
mention
this
that
is a
now.
hard one.
I already knew where I was going to put it when I was sitting here because I'm facing the board so I can see it. The whole time I'm playing, I'm like, where can I put it?
Where's
The game that I would compare it to in what I would play this over or under, like there's a lot of like, obviously if Ark Nova's very good games, you've got your Dune Imperium, King Domino is really good, right? And I wanted to put it quite high, but then I look at Archaeos Society and that is my comparable base. I would play this.
Archaeos Society is so good.
I couldn't decide if I'd play it over Arceus or below Arceus. It was like, that was it, right? That's the defining this or that. And I think the first game, I thought that the momentum of this game suffered more than Arceus Society, which is why I would play it under Arceus. Because
It's a
the
really-
momentum of this game, it takes a bit to ramp and then it's over.
It's a really interesting comparison because they're both really variable setup games.
And they've got, the option of the replayability of change out the cards, change out the tiles, have a different game, have a different experience, but it's still a 45-minute, easy to teach anyone game. And similar experience when we played Arceus Society, we're like, boy, you got to play Arceus Society when we finish it. And it's going to be the same. This is going to be the game where we're going to go to the rest of the nerds and go, you guys got to play Spellbook by the end of the year.
Oh, cheeky game of Spellbook.
What do you guys think?
Do you want to go first, or shall I?
You go first. I'll go last.
Really, really, really enjoyed this game. I absolutely would play it again, and I would show it to friends. A lot of the ones near the top of the list I've actually not played. So, for example, Ark Nova, everyone loves. I've not played
I
it.
don't think I.
You got
person-
you got
I
to
don't
take you
think
4 hours?
Yeah, you got to see. I don't think you'll enjoy Ark Nova.
Fair enough. Same with
We'll see how we go. We'll
Rise
play
of
it
the
on
Next Dune
Board Game
Imperium
Geek,
are ones that I've actually missed out on. So, just personally, ones that I have personally played and can compare to, I would put Spellbook right at the top of the list, at the very top.
Nice. Brees?
Well, I'm going to be the least favorable.
Let's go.
And I'm going.
Is that because you had a rough time first game, second game?
No. So I'm going to compare this to the game that I'm putting it under, which is Aurum.
Okay.
I adore Aurum, and that was a game that I didn't get tired of after multiple back-to-back plays. The second game of Spellbook is what sold it on me. It sold me on the position was because even though I enjoyed the game, there was a little bit of like, I'm done now. I've seen what the game does. I've had the experience. I'm ready to move on. And that's where it's like, Aurum, I can keep playing game after game after game. Spellbook, not so much. It'd be one, and then we move on to the next game.
Yeah.
So it's like Aurum would stay on the table way longer, and it'd be one that I'd probably pull out a bit more often than say what Spellbook is. So yeah, I'd have to say it goes under Aurum for me.
Yeah. It's a hard one to average out, but we will see where everybody else at Nerds puts it, because that will help us at the end of the year. That is what we do here. We get everyone to put their input in on every single game they've played, so we get a far more average view. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, if you have checked this out at any of the conventions or seen the panel that they are doing of this, let us know down below. Let us know your thoughts. We love hearing what people think. Or you can join us live every single week. Twitch.tv/Nerds of the West. We do this every single Saturday. We are Nerds of the West. We have Lachlan.
Hello.
We have Reese.
Hello!
We have Chris.
Abracadabra.
My name's Tom, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.